welcome to the Film Ireland podcast. I'm Gemma Creagh and I have an absolutely fantastic panel of very talented ladies here. So all these ladies have films in the Galway Film Fleadh at the moment. So we have one writer, one producer and one director and writer. But you're wearing your director hat for us.
I'm literally wearing a director hat right now. Yeah.
It's very impressive.
It's got a beer.
It has beer holder. Yeah, it's really important on set. You need a beer holder on set.
With the swirly straws going right to the mouth.
Exactly, yeah. And sometimes they just put whiskey in there as well. It just helps.
Whiskey and go-go juice. It's great for the creative process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask each of you guys to go around and just give yourselves the name of your project, a little short bio, and then when we can see your project, but don't tell us about your project because we'll do that in another one.
My name is Rioghnach Ni Ghrioghair. I am writer-director of a film called Break Us, which is going to premiere in Galway. I have been working in development for about 10 years. I'm also development executive, development producer for Samson Films. They make a lot of co-productions and a lot of, one of the longest running Irish production companies. And I also script edit and produce and do other bits and things. But as said, I'm wearing my director's hat today.
My name is Sarah Ingersoll, and I am the writer on The Bridge, which is a short film that'll be premiering on Saturday in the Galway Fleadh. And let's see, my background. I haven't been working in film very long. I studied screenwriting for 2 years at the New School in New York, and then came back here to Ireland because I knew I wanted to kind of have a career here and work in the industry here. I just knew it was kind of changing for the good in a lot of ways. So I came back, and The Bridge is the first short film I've written, period. I've written a lot more since then.
Well done.
I've been kind of working, really hard since, but so The Bridge is my first short.
I was teaching at the New School. I was teaching producing short docs.
Okay.
Until recently.
Right. I was just doing the screenwriting, but so I wouldn't have taken your class, but I loved it there. Teachers were amazing.
Oh, yeah, they were. They were cool. It was a great school to teach at.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Marissa Aroy. I am the producer of a short film called Ferry, which will have its premiere as well at the Galway Film Fleadh. Background. I'm
Emmy. I read that now. Emmy.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Thank you. What else? I'm mostly used to producing documentaries, but we're fiction curious. I work with my husband. We're filmmaking partners, and his name is Niall McKay, and it's his film that I produced.
Now, if we can go around and if we get a little bio about the film.
So Break Us is a Screen Ireland funded short under the scheme of short stories, which were 4 commissioned 3 to 5 minute movies. However, Break Us is a bit longer.
But it doesn't feel it.
No.
But it's very, very tight.
Yeah, it's hot. And
Hot. I'll take hot.
Action.
Yeah. I'll put that on the poster.
Aren't you excited about being my hostage?
It's not top of my fantasy list, to be honest.
Keep the nerve, and we'll be fine.
It's kind of like my feminist subversion of the Bonnie and Clyde trope, because I've always loved those movies about romantic couples that go in and rob a post office or a bank together, and they have the expanse of the West to escape justice, and they're in love and they're young. And so this is kind of like a kind of depressed Irish millennial feminist version of this, where set somewhere
late 90s, early 90s.
It's kind of set now with a little there's definitely a 90s flavour in it, like of colour palette. We didn't want it to be too, wanted it to have a very consistent kind of look, that it had that old romanticized 70s kind of sepiated filter all the way through it. But it's really about being in love with someone and understanding who they really are when you're under pressure, and then understanding who you are when you're under pressure. So without talking too much about what happens, the hope is that people watch it thinking it's one story and they leave after something happens and things turn out differently.
Like you've a second spoiler in there, but I actually thought it was about 3.5 different stories when I was watching it, which is very good. There's lots of like little twists that, and like even me saying that won't ruin it, but like very, very tight. And Sarah, The Bridge as well. It's a lovely story about two brothers. I got leaky eye a little bit on my lunch break in work.
Apparently, and it's crazy because it's not meant to be a sad film, but everyone who's seen it has cried.
Leaky eye.
But that's like my parents, and you know, of course they're gonna cry. But no, it's a joyful film, I think, even though like the events are somewhat sad. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's kind of the relationship of these two brothers transcends, you know, the tragedy in their lives.
Has he been here since... I mean, can he be alone?
He was at the respite centre. They sent him home yesterday and I've been keeping an eye on him. How's Lily?
She's good.
I wasn't sure you'd be back.
Does he know?
So that was a short script that was part of the Galway Film Centre RTE Short Film Commission. So that process lasted about a year. So I kind of submitted last February a few different scripts actually, and that one kind of went through the rounds. And I worked with a script editor that they provided, Dee Roycroft. Yeah, she was great. And her kind of main thing was like pushing me to stop editing because it's supposed to be a 10-minute film, but you know, so as a writer I was kind of thinking, okay, I have to keep it to 10 pages, but yeah, so she was great to just like force me to kind of let it loose and explore the different elements of the story, but yeah, so it's basically tells the story of a brother who, I don't know how much I want to give away if
No, don't.
Anything.
Just brothers who are going through a bit of a crisis.
Yeah, and one of them has to make a choice.
A tough choice.
Yeah, tough choice, tough decision. So, but yeah.
But there's good themes of responsibility, and there's even the fact one of the brothers, that's not really a spoiler, but he comes back at the very beginning of it. He comes back from Australia, and it is this and like part of it is this choice where what's your responsibility, what's, you know, like what is your role then, because a lot of people actually it's very timely because that actually happened to a lot of friends of mine, you know, they're forced to kind of come back from their lives when they've emigrated, and it's a very Irish story in that sense, for sure, like that sort of returning home kind of changed, but then having to kind of face everything that you left behind. And in this case, like he has to take some kind of a responsibility for the situation, you know, even though it's something he'd been running from for kind of years and years. Yeah.
So The Ferry is a mystery / a heartfelt drama about 3 women in a small town in Ireland, and it's set in a place where there's a former mother and baby home. And that sort of shadows their lives in ways that they might know and they might not know. 2 of them are trying to find their family members of origin, and one woman from the town believes that she can help them find those people.
Right. What can we do you for?
I want to find my mother.
Right. Name?
Aoife Power.
Aoife Power. Good Waterford name. Dungarvan?
Creagh.
Oh, that's right. Ferry people. You know, you're wasting your time here. All the adoption records were burned.
By who?
The nuns. Who do you think? Sure, half the adoptions were illegal.
Just look for it.
Okay.
What I think is this film does very, very well is characterize in such a short time. It's not the shortest short in the world, but it does, like, again, it's so plot driven. But yet you have time to have all these personalized moments with all the characters, and those characters really developed Do you know, you really feel like you know all their quirks and their interests, and they're very different ones by the end of it, which I thought was exceptionally well. And again, like the dialogue was very, very snappy. So very enjoyable. It doesn't feel like as long as the short it is.
Yeah, it's funny because usually shorts are supposed to be 40 minutes and under, but you would kill yourself if you had a short that was 40 minutes. No festival would program it.
Exactly. Yeah. And then shorts can be too short as well. And I think one of the difficulties of the last short I did, which was 5 minutes.
Yeah. Was it? Yes. I didn't get to see it, but it looks cool. And it's sci-fi as well. I just don't think there's enough sci-fi shorts.
I mean, like it was a cool film to make for a number of reasons. I think it was just a lot more focused on style than on story. And, you know, I think we wanted to cut it down to something really short, like 5 minutes, because it was a 5-minute movie. But it was really difficult for programmers to place 5-minute shorts. And that's you're kind of caught between when you're in that kind of 5 minutes or 15 minutes plus. It becomes difficult for programmers to kind of find those little windows for you. And it's somewhere around 8 to 15 is kind of like their ideal kind of spot, or at least I'm told.
Okay, that's good. I'm writing that down. 8 to 15.
We had tried to make The Ferry a shorter film. So we cut down the script. Niall McKay cut down the script to a 12-minute or 12-pager.
Yeah.
Right? And the thing is, you lost all of that characterization, that feeling, that sense of place, those funny moments between people.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it didn't get funded from Screen Ireland. And I think you could really feel that a lot of the magic was gone from it. The characterization was gone from it.
And I think like there's nothing worse than a script that's too short where, you know, like because I've kind of come from a background of script editing, you know, your reflex is to kind of make it lean and to edit yourself and to make it like just only tell the things that you absolutely need to tell. But I think a lot of the things I learned on this short was one of the big things was that you do need space for characters to just be and to let the audience have a chance to catch up with the story and to let it kind of sink in, because immersing them in that world is just as important as, you know, hurrying on to the next plot point just as quickly. So that short version probably wouldn't have had all those really nice little moments that, you know, you confidently can tell in that space as well.
And I think with The Ferry as well, it wasn't just about those characters. It was about almost the whole village that was under the kind of, you know, shadow of this mother and baby home, because it was affecting everyone, you know, and everyone was involved and everybody knew.
Yeah. Everyone
knew
something.
And if you cut all that down, you'd lose that sense of like, this is bigger than these people, you know.
Yeah, like a microcosm of what actually happened. Yeah. Like on a much smaller level, it really worked for that, because you saw the authorities, you saw everybody.
Yeah.
So I love the sense of responsibility as well. For like, I don't know, I'm not going to give any away, but I really enjoyed it. I had a lovely lunch break today, just catching those short films. It was a good actually little mini program, because it was so varied in tone and talks and stuff. Okay, so we're going to go around and just say a little bit about your experiences in your role as producer, writer and director on the film, and exactly what on those films, on a short film generally, you feel like they entail.
The role of producing, it meant for me coming up with the budget, figuring out where the money was coming from, hiring cast, crew from the US, by the way, which was a little tough. And then coming in to Ireland and finding locations, who's going to do catering, how are you going to transport everyone, all of those things. That's what's involved with producing the short film.
And how did you get the funding in the end? Because I just know I've put in for funding. It's a slog. It's consistent. And it's in and in and in and changes and edits.
And we didn't get the funding that we wanted from Screen Ireland, but we got a private investor to do it. So that's what we worked with. And then post-production was a lot of our money put in because, you know, in the end, we wanted that color correction. We wanted the sound edit and the mix and all those things that you're like, oh, well, I can kind of do that, right? And I could, but it would do a disservice to the film.
You've made it this far. It's like,
exactly. So it's like, okay, fine. Let's like ask that favor from somebody we know who can really do the good job.
So looking at your film, I was like, there's a lot of locations. It looks gorgeous. There's a lot of locations. There's a lot of characters. And the biggest thing is like there's a ferry. There's an actual ferry in it. I was like, oh my God, how much did that cost?
It cost us nothing. That was Passage East Ferry. It was a pleasure to produce here. We didn't pay for any of the locations. Everyone everywhere we filmed, everyone was so kind and lovely. And it happened to be the place where we were moving to the area. So we moved to County Wicklow, to Shillelagh, County Wicklow. And those locations are all around us, except for the Passage East Ferry, which is in Waterford. But all of them said, come on in, sure, why not? And you can film. And it was the best experience of producing I've ever had.
That's amazing. Because I was like, oh my God, like just picturing a ferry, even because it's a name, it's a titular thing. You can't get rid of that.
Yeah.
I thought it's kind of like a good metaphor for like, you know, the issue that we were in with regards women's health and things as well, where and for like this woman's transient position at the moment in her thing. So I was like, that's actually really clever.
It's deep, isn't it?
and enjoyable, which is really good.
Yeah,
like
good.
It's always a hard kind of tightrope to balance to get those two things together. So Sarah, so tell me what it was like writing. So you put in your 500-word
synopsis, originally a synopsis and a couple pages of script. So the idea had been in my head for a really long time before I even was thinking of getting into filmmaking and screenwriting. And I actually wrote a version of it for my Leaving Cert English paper. So like that's going way back. So maybe.
Did you get an A? That's so...
I don't know. I can't remember. Who remembers their grades? I don't know their marks from the Leaving Cert.
Remember what it failed.
Me too. Going, here's this really deep, thoughtful, evocative, true story instead of, you know, like my favorite football player and this, or like fan fiction for Harry Potter or something.
I feel like that was before fan fiction was a thing, maybe, unless it was like another iteration back when I was doing school. People probably wrote it but just kept it in their diary, I imagine. But so that was the original story. And then when it came time to kind of submit to the short film commission, originally it was set in a desert because I'd lived in New Mexico and lived in Arizona. And so that landscape was very kind of familiar to me and nostalgic as well to write about. So I knew I wanted it to be set here. And the Burren to me was really important to have that setting and to put the story there because that landscape is just so evocative and it's so unusual. Like you never see it on screen. And I feel like really connected with that as a place. And just metaphorically, like it's just all exposed. It's like the bones of the landscape are like there for you to see, you know, and the spine of like these hills that, you know, spiral upwards. Like it's insane. So when I was writing it, I knew it had to be set there instead of a desert, but it does have that kind of barrenness to it. And I think that really appealed to Galway, to the film center. So writing it then was easy enough, I think, because it was so real already to me. I'm trying to think of like the actual process. Like nothing really changed too much from the draft that I sent to the directors originally, and then like the shooting draft. Like just a couple little changes that Mark wanted, which were just kind of like negligible, and I don't even know if they made it into the final kind of cut of the film. But and just like, you know, some shots that were at night, can we move them to the day? Can, you know, just very kind of minimal input from him. I think he was really...
That's very hands-off, actually, for a director. Normally, they're like, well, let's change your main character to a microphone and set it in space.
No, I'm trying to think of the process, but no, it was totally like he was kind of good to go with it.
Did they connect with you through the program, or did you know them beforehand?
So this program has been running for a few years, or this fund. And I think this was the first year where I got to sit in on the panel to interview the directors. So we had maybe 9 directors come. And it was amazing for me because I met all of these directors and I saw all their visions for this story. So you're kind of going, wow.
They're auditioning for
you. They were. It was, to kind of put the writer in that position, I think was really interesting. And the fact that like, I felt like I connected quite well with Mark's vision, obviously, because there was a lot of factors at play. We're very much on the same page, and I'd seen him before doing a talk on his short film Leap of Faith with his producer and his writer for that film, and I loved the way that their dynamic was, and I just thought like, well, he seems like he doesn't really bring a lot of ego to it, which I then experienced firsthand when he was just like, love the script, like wasn't asking me to change anything
so important to find the right people to work with. Really makes a project like really strong.
And we're actually collaborating on a new project together because we enjoy working together so much. And this has been interesting because with this new project, like I've been sending him the drafts as I've been going, and he's just a sounding board. And again, he's not trying to kind of tell the story. Like he gets the story and he's just like, yes, like let's do it. So he's kind of more of a cheerleading squad than kind of an editor kind of coming in and wanting to make it his own. So it really is a true collaboration with him. So it's a real pleasure to work with him.
It's hard to find that kind of connection, I think, because, I think there's so much about writing that is, you're constantly feeling questioned and you're constantly feeling like, I don't know if this choice is right. But I think you need directors and people around you that also support the choices that you're not comfortable making yet. That, I think a lot of it is about getting to that confident place to make the choices that are going to make the most out of your instincts as well, and finding a director that is able to kind of support you, that is really important as well.
And that first draft is always such like a tender, raw thing, and to sort of expose that to people who, might dash it to the floor. You're just kind of going, no. But I could trust him. Yeah.
We were saying that as well. Like one of the things I've noticed, you've different kinds of notes. So there's notes that are really, really helpful, and they're like, something's not working, I'm not connecting with this character, and they're like, there's just something off, I don't know what it is. And then there's other notes and they're like, make this happen, change this, make a beat, and then obviously they have a different vision in their head and they're trying to get you to write their vision, and it's very hard then even to get in line, because what you're doing then is facilitating them, and you're not even going to be able to do it right because they're just trying to tell you to write their story.
Exactly.
So,
you almost need a class on how to read people's notes and filter it through so that you don't take it on.
Especially when you're emerging as well. I think you're so susceptible to wanting to make a good impression, to take everybody's notes to not be difficult, and to but I think the whole center of this film has to be you, why you're writing it, why you're directing it, what that thing is that makes it really special. And that's it's so fleeting, and it's so easy to just evaporate from the wrong note
completely, because it's all about the heart of what the story is, and then it becomes a technical exercise of this has to be here, this has to be said. It's so funny, and I think that's probably why, because I remember saying to somebody before, sometimes films are transcendent, and they just the actors bring something, the writers bring something, the directors elevate the visuals, and they just become this magical thing. And then sometimes they do everything like right on paper, and the performances are good and everything, but it just doesn't gel.
It's like it's grand.
And it's just it just is what it is. But then sometimes they just become this amazing thing, and I wonder if that's what it is. Something has changed, and it's not the true spirit of what it was
original
trying to
kind
be.
of vision. Yeah.
It
so
could
much
just be
to say
one
of that.
thing. It could just be one thing, right? It could be just one, like something about the lighting, or it could be the wrong music, or it could be
one shot
that's like a crucial shot,
or a face, or something that just is,
and then just tears it apart.
I think that's the difference between and this is something I'm trying to get more articulate in saying, because like a part of my job in Samson is to give script script editing and advice and to develop a project, but also I think I realized the more I've tried to enforce writers into a very, very tight bracket or a tight kind of structure that I think works and that it makes it easier for me to manage them, the more I realize that I'm stifling something that could actually, that needs the space to breathe, that they're you working with them because they have something interesting to say. So you have to be able to help them get to a place where they're able to say it. And to be confident enough to be able to go into that headspace to make a decision that is, you know what, for this whole scene, no one's going to say anything. We're just going to look at her face and we're not going to see what's happening behind her, you know, but there's going to be this whole scene that a script editor would love to throw out, like, why can't we see what she's looking at? Because that's where all the action is. Yeah. But if that's the choice you want to make because instinctively you think that's going to make a much more interesting cinematic experience for the audience to feel something, it's all about what the audience is going to feel from watching it, not from how it's going to look on the page.
Yeah. Or if it's ticking this box and that box of like, you know, I was working with somebody who's like, you can't cut from a wide to a wide. Like, you can't do it. But then I was like, well, you know, then I saw Nocturnal Animals and you're kind of going like, the editing in that is like insane. I've never really seen anything like that.
You can
you're
do
kind of going like,
want.
break the rules.
Yeah.
Like, definitely. But it's the same with writing. Like, the most recent project that I'm collaborating with Mark on is been through a few drafts, and the third draft was like absolutely so wrong. Like, I completely made the wrong choices, like, altogether. But to have that room to fail is so important because it was part of the process. Like, that third draft got me to the fourth draft. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it was the third draft was just like,
how did you emotionally get there though? Because that can be such kind of heartbreaking and you feel like lost in that.
I mean, I hate rewriting. Like, I can be a really lazy writer. But that's something that this experience taught me a lot, because with the third draft, like, I knew myself that it was wrong. Like, I knew that, like, it was flat. Suddenly the story that had been singing was just like flat. Yeah. Like, it had lost that heart that we were talking about.
But you don't know what's wrong with it until you write it as well, which is the annoying
exactly.
thing.
Like, I had to do it. I had to go there. And then that enabled me to get rid of other characters from the first and second draft, and then to ascribe kind of more purpose to other, so it just brought the whole thing together to be able to take what I'd learned from that third draft for my main character and bring her then into the fourth. But,
and did you have readings? Sorry, I'm asking a question.
No, ask away.
Did you have readings with actors? Like
for
a
the
table
bridge?
read? Yeah.
They're so important for me for writing. Hugely important for writing.
Yeah, no, I didn't sit on any of that. I haven't met the actors. My part was kind of I wasn't so involved with the pre-production.
Yeah.
Actually, because the script wasn't changing that much, and the actors really liked the script. I think that was, we had
a very good vehicle for actors, for both. Like, there's two incredible, like, and the actors, it's Peter Coonan and Lachlan O'Mara. So, like, they're very high.
And Marie
caliber.
Mullen came in for like quite a small part, and she's such a legend, and so the fact that she kind of came on board was really exciting. And having written it, like, I wasn't thinking about kind of how the character of Owen, the younger brother, would be perceived.
Yeah.
And then Peter Coonan, when I saw him on the screen, I just went, oh, thank God. Like, any lesser actor, and this could have been.
He's really transformed himself. Like, he's not a...
you wouldn't recognize him.
What's his name?
Fran the Man.
Fran the Man. Got a bone to you. Like, he's almost like... I wouldn't have even recognized him.
Yeah.
If I didn't see him, if I hadn't kind of spoken to him at a different stage, I would not have recognized him physically or his voice or anything. Like, he kind of transformed himself. And
so he, like, killed it. And Lachlan, like, brought so much to Cormac's character. Like, his eyes kind of say so much. Like,
and he's a very reserved character, but you do get such a sense of his struggle, and he says so little, but you really
all internal, and he was able to kind of show that internal kind of pain. Like,
I love that magic with actors. Like, it is like working with Danny and Danielle Gallagher and Gavin Dre on Break Us. We talked about the roles for so long and about that couple and where they
Such
come
good
from.
chemistry.
It's great
They
chemistry.
had such good chemistry.
They
and
were cracking up the whole time. I was like, just stop it, guys. Come on.
Get back to work.
But they just, I think it was, I didn't want to, I remember not wanting to kind of overwrite their characters to the point of butting in all these nuanced moments where you could see the changes happening as this post office robbery was taking place. You knew you wanted to be able to trust them enough to bring their own interpretation and their own naturalism to where they thought those characters' minds were going during those moments. And I thought that was a really big lesson that I learned on this one. And I wanted to do something where I could direct actors in something really nuanced, like a story happening within a story and a power shift and, it just all in looks kind of thing.
Very small moments again, but so powerful. What's your process there when you direct them? Like, how did you cast them first? And then how did you kind of work with them?
I remember feeling like I didn't actually know who I was going to cast in this role. I remember thinking I wanted 2 people in particular, and then I kind of, after talking to Screen Ireland initially and thinking about the ages of who they were, then it kind of opened up a big idea of, I don't really quite know who it could be. So it started a really big casting process where I knew I had a short list of about 10 actresses that I always wanted to work with. And Danielle was the last person that I'd seen in a Fringe show. She just had that balance that I was looking for with complete vulnerability, that kind of wallflower, really kind of soft, timid girlfriend, who she is at the start, but then can turn and be this, this kind of animal and this real angry, almost slightly feral person at the end. And I think of that
very under the surface, which I just think is such a skilled actor.
Oh God, yeah.
Like it's all like you've the veneer there, and then you have them just like I don't know how they managed to do it so nuanced, but it's really good.
The best actors are
it
so
seems like it's all in the eyes again.
I think it's just the best actors are the ones that give you that don't need to paint with all of the crayons in the box, that and I think that's the one thing I always look for in self-tapes is I think actors want to show their whole range of, this is me acting and this is me saying the scene really big, and and I know where that's coming from. They want to show everything and then they do a quiet one. But the best self-tapes for me are the people that sit back into the role and just don't, you get that sense they're not self-aware. They're just kind of sitting there and just like uttering the lines, and you're just like, they look so fucking cool.
So like they're living it rather than performing it.
Yeah. And that confidence to do nothing and to sit still and barely even say the lines is what I think a lot of directors tend to respond to, instead of big emotions that I think you naturally want to show in a self-tape when you're and I mean, self-tapes is for a start are a pain for actors and a pain for directors because you can't be there presently talking to people about it. But when Danielle sent in her self-tape, I knew that was it. And then Gavin Dre, who's been a friend of mine for years, he was doing Hamlet with Ruth Nega in the Gate last year, and it was just so incredible. Like he came off Hamlet and went straight onto the shoot, and he was wrecked. And because he was emoting every night. He looked so
stretched to the limit,
wiry and like stressed and underfed and
method.
Very method, yeah. But I think they were such a good chemistry, and they knew each other before, so there was a lot of trust there. They were such pros. There was a few very difficult moments on set where, it's just production elements, things just kind of, there was a few setbacks, and they were such pros about it that they were part of the team. And I think giving them a space where they could really add a lot of their own things to those characters, to the blocking and the direction, I think I had a very particular thing in mind, but I didn't want to have to suffocate every tiny little nuanced moment of when Mark, the main character, comes in and he's full of bravado, and then he starts too high, and in this post office robbery you see the panic immediately in his eyes, and then the panic quickly turns to anger, and then you realize he's completely losing control. But those are the moments you didn't want to have to signal too much in a plot point or you know, you wanted to give him the space to kind of find that within his own performance and to be able to pick it up on the camera enough to know that you can tell in the space of a second that he's losing it and losing control.
Did you have kind of a loose approach then to the shoot for that and for the cinematographer? Or?
We did.
To a
I think
certain
we
extent?
overshot it. I mean, like I think that was definitely my choice. Was I wanted to make sure that we were going to get everything, and we could, you know, we had her face, we had Mark's face. We had wide shots from every angle because there were hostages and there was just like, God, just get coverage. I definitely would have done it a bit different now because it was, you know, we had Steadicam, we had everything going around, but just to be able to have it all and it worked because we had a lot of stuff to work from, but we rehearsed it quite a lot until that was really kind of there and present for them, and those characters were there for them. I think that was the important thing, was getting them to have a connection with who they were and talking about it and why certain things might want to trigger their characters to do certain things or what moments might make them act out in certain ways. And it's just interrogating who they were, and that really, really helped. And because they're so smart and intelligent and you knew you could trust them, they just, you know, they had that space to kind of do it. And that was really fun to watch because you're just watching it and going, this is awesome.
And planning out the visuals, what's your process there? Like, when do you kind of sit down with the DOP and go, what are we going to do?
I always start with a colour palette. You'll go straight into like hardware stores and pick up a big pile of those like I'm trying to signal it with my hands, but the little paint sample strip color gradients, I think is what they're called, but in so many words.
Chips. Paint chips.
They're like the little gradients, you know, like if you got like blue, you get like a series of blues and greys, and you just get a sense of what the colors might actually kind of look like, and then you kind of stick it all up and you get a consistent look, like, okay, this film's not going to have any big major, you know, lush greens or blues. It's going to be mostly sepiated, so therefore you've decided on this palette. Anything that the costume designer is going to get has to be in that palette. Nothing can be in the frame that isn't like that. And when we're choosing locations, that was the thing as well. And colour of the car, colour of people's hair and things like that. It just all had to kind of fit in this balance. Like a big reference for us was the film Killing Them Softly, which is a heist movie that takes place in 2008. Because you know it's 2008 because there's loads of clips of Obama talking about change, and there's George W. Bush on the TV behind talking about the economy and the recession. But you would not be able to tell that because everything else is just 70s cars, 70s clothes, really empty, kind of like nowhere Detroit. He just has that kind of 70s crime thriller varnish. So it was that kind of, just that kind of aesthetic. I kind of liked that kind of 70s getaway, you know, couple on the run.
And they're actually
rainy.
really stylish hipsters.
Exactly. They're just millennials who are just think they can do anything.
I thought it was more like you're stretched the end of your tether because like they couldn't survive. Like, well, you know, the what's out there now for people is like you're paying $2,000 to live in a shed.
Yeah.
Like with 12 other people, like it's insane.
Why not go on a ferry to Spain and rob a post office on the way with the person you want to be with?
Yeah, just go over there. Rent's be much cheaper anyway.
Good.
Yeah. I just wanted to bring up as well about the medium of shorts. So one of the things is, you know, festivals are a big vehicle for shorts. Another thing is where can we watch them is the likes of YouTube and like there's a lot of kind of video on demand things. But it does feel like a lot of people see shorts as this calling card instead of their own medium. And I think what you guys definitely did so well is kind of proved they're their own thing. They're completely their own thing. Like your thing isn't a feature, it's a short. Yours is definitely not a feature, it's a short. You could change the format of it, change the characters, but it wouldn't be what it is, the structure of it. So I don't know, like what do you guys think?
I think there's more places now for shorts to be seen. I mean, you can watch them on Vimeo, on YouTube, and in so many different platforms. So I think now more than ever, they're more visible. And yes, they are a calling card. We have a feature film script that we've been trying to do. And in the meantime, he had this short film. And we did it as our way of saying, and see, we can produce and we can make this and we can make a good product. And so now trust us with your money.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
more.
And that's it. But even finding distribution for this now, that's your job. What do you normally do with things? Do you go and sell them? Is the market different maybe than it was back in America? What would the go-to process be for that?
For me, thinking of what we're going to do with the Ferry, it's about right now the film festival market and definitely getting it out there to film festivals. Certainly you're trying to think of trying to win awards if you can, qualifying for any awards like the Oscar or the IFTA, anything that's out there that brings more name to the writer and director and the production company, honestly, because we're not going to make any money from the Ferry as much as we'd love to. But if there's something that happens because we made the Ferry, then that's great. That's really probably the main goal, is just to see what it brings to us, what offerings happen because we made it.
And is this the premiere? Is this?
Yes, yeah. Galway Film Fleadh is the premiere for the Ferry.
Have you heard back from any other festivals? Like now it's festivals season.
We actually were just really hoping to get into Galway, and then are now just starting to apply to other film festivals and trying to figure out what is our strategy, our film festival strategy, because everyone has their list of their A list of festivals, then their B, and then their C.
It's expensive as well.
It can be very expensive. It goes from 40 euros to 80 euros. And then you have to wonder, once you apply and if you get in, do you have the money to go? Because they don't pay for short film festival, for short film directors to go, nor a producer or an actor, unless you're maybe Robert Downey Jr. and you have a short film. So you have to pay for your own way to go, your lodging, everything, your expenses. And then if you're trying to get an award, then are you having a marketing campaign, publicity, putting a press release out there? So it's all the sort of stuff that is the business of movie making that as an artist, you don't want to think about, but as a producer or a distributor, you definitely have to think about.
Yeah.
And Sarah, with regards writing structures for short film, I presume as well with your course that you were doing, you've done a lot of feature work with that as well.
Yeah.
Structurally,
so I've
what would
two
you...
features, and now at this point, probably 4 shorts. So not tons of stuff, but it's a short film is like a short story. It's a completely different process. It's a completely different kettle of fish, How much can you tell? And what's the most important thing to tell? What are you, you have to be so much more careful with your choices. And I'm just kind of finishing up a second draft of a feature right now. And it's so different with the feature, because with the feature, you have to hold the entire thing in your head and then zoom in on the scene. And then, so you're constantly switching between those two modes. But with the short film, it's all so much more manageable. It's much more clear to access the story. Yeah, so it is a different process for sure. But I love writing shorts, for sure.
I suppose that's it. It's nice as well. They're a little bit easier to get funded for certain things. So many writers, even at the absolute top of their game, they're working on features. They're working on features, and they're probably not going to get made. Only one, and even people who've proven themselves time and time and again. Not everything they're going to be working on is going to get funded. And I was going to say, with seeing it come to fruition, is that odd? Do you know, something being in your brain for so long, and then watching
I
Peter
think
Coonan.
The weirdest part was realizing that suddenly all these people are the actors, the crew members are reading this script that I wrote, and you're kind of going, oh my God, is this any good? I'm always gonna be asking that of myself.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, so once you hand the shooting script over, it's not yours anymore. And I was totally fine with that.
Were you
trusted
on set?
in. I wasn't on set. I couldn't be on set, unfortunately. And it was a very short shoot. I think it was 3 days. Maybe 4. There was one day in the Burren. The rest was shot in Meath, I believe. But yeah, it's weird. It becomes something else. You know, like you do lose that ownership of it, which maybe for some things would be harder. But I lived with this story for so long that I was ready to let it go. Yeah. And the other thing was I did get to sit in on the edit. So I guess I was more involved with the post-production than the pre-production.
And that I think is almost unusual as a writer.
It is, but I mean, Mark's whole thing is collaboration, and like knowing that it was originally kind of my whole vision, we had some pretty long sessions, just the two of us kind of going over things, and that wasn't hard because like, you know, once you have the short film, like forget the script, forget it, like forget everything that was on the page, because what you're working with is what you have. So you're kind of starting fresh. And the script is always just a blueprint. Like it's just a blueprint for an idea. We know ourselves. So many people are coming in to collaborate on this project that it is never just yours. Like, so you can't control what happens. But yeah, so we cut stuff, you know, had to cut stuff that was in the script. And like there was my background is actually art and photography. So I come from a very visual perspective when I'm writing. Like I don't do a lot of dialogue. Like that's kind of the last thing I'm really looking at. Like I'm always looking at like, what's the visual hook? Like how do we tell the story visually because of the medium as well?
When you're in the edit as well, I think, you know, and you have to kind of leave the script behind because it's already shot, and what you're working with is that footage. You know, I think for somebody who hasn't directed and hasn't been part of that process of like choosing what shots, you know, putting a shot list together and choosing a certain performance in an actor, you also get to apply your instincts as a writer as to when you see an actor give a certain look, there could be something really interesting there that even the director could have missed. Like that tells part of the story that I could have, you know, we could have written, but we went in that direction, and now that we've lost that little interesting thing is there. And I think that is a really the
surprises are like the best part of filmmaking, obviously.
But for you to be there as the writer, I think is such a great idea, because it is such a collaboration that you still need to be part of that writing process after the film's been shot as well.
And it was great to kind of work with a director who felt got that. Yeah. And I'd like, when we're sitting down to edit, like for me, it's like how I imagine making music is like, you're picking your way through, and like you have like some things just feel right. Like, you know, sometimes you're just like, we need this shot to be another, just a few seconds longer. Like hold on this.
That's the best feeling when it works out as well.
Yeah, so you're just kind of putting together, it's like putting together a song, but you're putting together like a visual experience.
I've been talking about this a lot recently, and I feel like there's two different approaches to creativity, and not necessarily, you know, particularly in writing, and trying to say this to some of the writers that I work with as well, is that there's the very logical, rational, intellectual approach to writing, which is
go from a wide shot to a wide shot.
We can't go to a wide shot to a wide shot. You can't, you know, you have to do this by a certain page. You have, you know, the midpoint has to be this, and you know, like you need to be more clear with what's going on with the character here, and you know, I think you stand back from it. You write the treatment, you write the block of it, and you look at it like a math equation on your wall, and you're applying logic to a note that might be given, and I find that's the worst. It's not, you need certain logic, but I think intuition like that, and instinct, and trusting your own gut, and understanding that all of that DNA of what makes a film good is already within your DNA, because you know how much you love watching movies, and you know how much you enjoy telling stories.
How I think everyone, like we all understand that language of filmmaking. We've all grown up with it, you know. So there's certain things that we just know instinctively. Like
I think how logic, it can really suffocate that intuition, and it's that intuition I think that like really has to flourish and allowed to flourish as well.
I have a shelf of screenwriting books that I've never read. Like I had to buy them for class, and like, you know, like, oh, read this, read that, and I'm just going like, I will never work like that. No. You know, like, yes, it's definitely handy to have, like, you know, you're kind of thinking of your plot points, but only as a point to get from, like, you know, how do we I'm definitely a writer who like drama and pathos come really easily. So like the feature that I'm working on now is all action, like it's an adventure story. So that's been a challenge, but it's been so much fun, and it's been so much easier to write because you're just going like bam, 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 like next thing, next
That's
scene.
the thing. It's like the feeling of, it was a big thing I learned in writing as well, was it's the difference of writing the script that you thought worked and you were working with a script editor and like, yeah, things make sense, but just something's not clicking and I'm not really present with it.
Sarah, what you were saying about it being like music, it is. There's a rhythm to a scene that happens, and every scene has its own rhythm. And when you're editing it, you can feel that there's something wrong with this because it's missing that extra beat or that whatever ending conclusion that it needs, and it could be just emotional, could be silence,
a moment or something just needs to grab me there,
a cutaway, or not, maybe nothing, maybe you're just staying on an actor. Niall used to be a shorts programmer for Tribeca, and in the background, if I'd be working on my laptop, he'd be watching 300 short films in the background. And so I could hear the dialogue and the rhythm of dialogue. And I knew immediately when a short film was not good because there was something about the rhythm of the dialogue. You could just tell from the audio. And then I could tell from just something about the audio. And I wasn't even listening to it, right? It was just the pace of things that something was good. Like something was given time or space. And it wasn't like that they all talked like this or anything. But
confidence, I think.
Maybe it was a confidence in the filmmaking and trusting it that made me want to go like, whoa, what's that you're watching? And then want to see it.
God, that's amazing. And it's so instinctual. That's what's very interesting. It's emotional as well. Because I also think your conscious mind is great, but actually it's not as smart as your unconscious mind. And your unconscious mind will be like, I know everything.
I can apply my masterful intellect to this plot and it'll be fine.
I've definitely kind of written stuff into scripts, and it was only later that I actually kind of analyzed my own story going, that I was writing metaphors for kind of emotional aspects of the film without even consciously doing that.
Or consciously feeling the emotion of it, which is that kind of, I think it's like about presence. I think you need to be able to sit down in a dark room and visualize your film happening in front of you. And I think you need to kind of, it is that difference of, would you watch your own film and how are you reacting to all of these rhythms and moments, and when are you being met with something that's a little bit subversive of, when are you going to take yourself by surprise, and you try to imagine a sense of what that looks like. And I think that's the best. That's my first draft process with a feature, and I try to encourage a lot of other writers to do it as well, because it's, I think the treatment can work for a lot of people, but I think it's definitely when you take the leap of understanding that how this film is going to roll. And of course the first draft's going to be hugely problematic when you do it like that, but you're going to have all these little nuances and moments and things that will catch you by surprise because you've enabled your brain to go to a place where, well, I just need something just to happen like there, because I was getting really tired there and I knew something had to pick up and do that. I actually think there's a lot to be said for just barreling into a draft and going blind and just listening to your gut.
That's kind of what I do. Like, I know I'm not supposed to, and I'd never admit
that
to my script editor, but like I don't.
I think you trust your gut like that. When your gut is getting bored and when you should put something in,
and also at the same time, at least for me, like I'm never not working. Like I'm always in my mind, like constantly sifting through the stories that I'm working on and finding the root, like whether I'm doing it consciously or not. So then when I sit down, suddenly problems that I couldn't think my way through will suddenly have solved themselves. Once you start writing the script.
Procrastination as well as the artist's way of working things out. So while you're going, I'm going to go just clean my house or whatever, your subconscious is working out all those little kinks. So then the next time you sit down to write, you're like, that came out of nowhere.
I also have like my computer that I'm writing, in script format, which is very specific format. And, it's great to kind of force your brain into that, like, because you're always thinking visually, for me anyway. But then I also have a huge stack of newsprint and a marker. So while I might be writing, I'm thinking ahead or I'm thinking back within the feature more so. and I'm just jotting down notes, bullet points, scenes, ideas, like visuals. Yeah. So that's kind of happening while I am technically writing this very specific kind of using very specific language and writing in this very specific format. But I still have that kind of wild side to the brain, like able to just reach for a pen and just like scribble.
That's the most important. Like, especially when you're on a train and you're listening to a piece of music and then you suddenly something just hits you. You're like, that's it. And then you have something to go later on back to, because when you think of your favorite movies, there are moments that can't really be described in a logical sense of, like moments in Taxi Driver, of the way things are sort of beautifully, violently visualized. They're not something you can kind of just sit there and think up
and plan.
Or these moments that just kind of come to you that are so true to you and so sincere to your instincts about what makes you want to watch and make movies, that they're not something that you can kind of apply logic to either. They just sort of come at you.
Yeah.
That's actually really lovely ending. It's really organic. Okay, so thank you guys so much for coming in. That was absolutely
Gemma.
so fascinating and very inspiring, and I look forward to seeing your shorts on the big screen. So if you guys maybe can just tell us one more time, when can we see your shorts?
The Ferry will be showing on Friday, July 12th at 11:45. It's part of the Shorts Program 5.
Okay, The Bridge will be on Saturday the 13th at 10 o'clock. I think it's part of Program 6.
Break Us will be part of the Físear and Screen Ireland short films, Short Film 7, on Saturday the 13th of July at 11:45.
Excellent. Okay, so everyone check out the Galway Film Fleadh website. You'll be able to get your tickets online there, so you don't want. I'd say maybe one or two of those might sell out as well.
Yeah.
Oh, it's sold out already.
It's sold out. Wow.
Well, we got Jack Rayner's new short. So it's like, I'd really go to see Jack Rayner's.
Okay, so
We bought out a lot of the seats ourselves.
Also that too. I bought like 10 tickets for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we bought 20.
Okay, well, I'm going to go now because I have to go buy some tickets for things before they all sell out. But everybody, yes, so go. It'll be great crack. And we'll catch up then. Thank you so much.
Drinks.
Thank you.
And drinks, of course.
Yes.
Well, the most important thing, obviously.
It is Galway.
Yeah.